Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight on this beautiful April evening. Welcome to members of council, staff, and members of the public, and those that are joining us on live stream. I just wanted to let you know that this meeting is being audio, video recorded, and live streamed on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with the town's retention bylaw. I'd also ask if you would respectfully mute your phones or put them on vibrate so that we're not interrupted this evening. And I will ask the clerks if there's anybody registered for the open forum this evening. We have no one registered for open forum, so then we'll move right into the land acknowledgement statement, and that would be Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. One moment. It's taking a moment. Apologies. Thank you very much. The Town of Innisfil acknowledges that the Town of Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the First People of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe people of Beausoleil First Nation, Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll now go to item 3, which is the approval of the agenda. And we do have one item that we would ask council if they would consider adding for tonight's meeting, and that is a notice of motion regarding County Road 21, Innisfil Beach Road correspondence to be sent to the county, which will be under item 10.1. So could I have a mover and a seconder for the agenda as amended, please? Councillor Zanella and Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. You'll notice tonight we've added some new signs because we did have some feedback from people watching on the live stream that they couldn't see how we were voting. So we're using our new yes and no signs to make it very apparent how we're voting and transparent. And next we will go to item 4, which is disclosures of interest. Is there anyone with a potential pecuniary interest or conflict this evening? Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you throughout the meeting, please just let us know at that time and we'll have the declaration and the written request filled out. And I could ask the deputy to please turn your mic off. That would be great. Next is item 5, presentations and petitions. So we have 2 presentations and a delegation this evening. And our first one is from our friends at the Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture. Mr. Dave Ritchie, president of the Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture, is here this evening. Welcome, Mr. Ritchie.
Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, staff. As you see, I'm the current president of the Simcoe County Federation. We represent some 1,560 members across the county of Simcoe. With me tonight, I have one of our directors, Dave Lucas, past president of the Federation, and Leah Ems, a member service rep. The Federation is now celebrating our 83rd year in Simcoe County as an advocate for agriculture in Simcoe County. And we represent a group of every aspect of agriculture. We also support 4-H, bursaries. We've donated quite a bit of money to the seniors' homes and food banks. We're just a little over $10,000 this year to the local food banks. But I think the big thing is we have some outreach programs like Keep Kids Safe, which is going to happen this Saturday at Huron Tractor. We have 60-some kids signed up for it. We also do Farmers Feed Cities, which has been, because of COVID, sidelined. And so at the end of the day, we've had to we put together a bunch of videos, and we will see them in short order, I think, as long as I get the right clicker here. But anyway, we did that in order to showcase the different aspects of Simcoe County's agriculture. I guess the big thing with agriculture in Simcoe County is, what is it? And it's big business. Simcoe County agriculture generates $1.1 billion worth of economic activity within our borders. On 1,846 farms, 1 in 8 jobs in Simcoe County relates back to agriculture. And so we're fortunate in the fact that we have climate, soil, and people. And I'm going to play a video here. I think I'll ask the deputy clerk if she will play the video. This does a better job at explaining everything than I do, so if you would, please.
This is a farm that we bought at just north of Wyvale. There's 130 acres here and 250 across on the other side of the road. We rotate the crops every year, corn, soybeans, and wheat. It helps with the disease resistance. The weed control is better. We try to get away with as little spray as possible.
So her dad is QB, so her dad's a quarterback. And her mom is 16B, who is Rita. We affectionately call her Rita, so this one's called Baby Rita. Her number's 4J, and she was born on January 1st.
There's always things to be learned, and a great resource to work with your associations, people in the community that are in your industry and in other industries.
So as a horticultural farmer here in Simcoe County, one of the most important programs is the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program. These workers you see behind me have anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 years experience coming back to my farm.
When we buy land, you want the sandy loam land, but you also want it near a reliable water source. So whether it be a river or a stream nearby. The Simcoe County area has been good to us.
This machine is multifunctional. It does a little bit everything. In 3 passes, it will mow, spray, fertilize. It has the ability to prune trees, fumigate, cut Christmas trees.
We really appreciate that people take the time and the effort to track down their favorite maple syrup supplier, their favorite vegetable supplier, and go to the farm or go to the farmer's market. So it just goes around and around. People support us, we support local businesses, and away we go.
We have the luxury of having Georgian Bay not too far from us, and that provides us with a little bit more moisture and a little bit more heat too as well. We have excellent land here. There's a good amount of topsoil and good soil too, and it's an excellent place to farm.
I'm a farmer right down to my core. There's no doubt about it. I love farming and I love the cows and the crop and all the rest of it. That can really inspire and motivate you to get up in the morning.
Well, I guess that says most of it. It's a snapshot of most of what we do here in Simcoe County. We have an exceptional group of people that farm within our community. But you know what? Part of this is we're the people of your community. We're the people that populate your committees, councillors in council, conservation authorities. There's even actually a bunch of farmers on a source water committee chaired by your Worship, and we've enjoyed working with them, making rules to protect and look after our drinking water sources for what, 13, 14 years, Your Worship? I've lost track of time. Been quite a journey, but ladies and gentlemen, we have something special here in Simcoe County. Agriculture is key, and if there's any ask or message here today is we're losing close to 400 acres of farmland in Ontario a day, and we see that locally close by. And we got to ask ourselves, where are we going to be in 5 years from now or 10? We're going to hit the glass ceiling. Our neighbors south of the border have now already hit the alarm bell. They're short 14 million acres of land in the U.S. due to drought, due to urban sprawl. They've lost half their cow herd. Their wheat crop in the main wheat growing areas of Kansas, Oklahoma. So they're not the go-to people, they admit it. They're not the go-to people for food anymore. So we've got to stand back, look, see what we're going to do in the years to come. We're not against building, we're not against that. We're for progress, but let's build smart. Let's move up, not out, and around, not over. And in the years to come, we can have a viable industry for both the public and the farming community in Simcoe. With that, Your Worship, I thank you all for your time. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer some. Also, we're also a resource for anything Leah or myself or the staff. We have a whole group of researchers that work on different agricultural issues and legislation that's on the go all the time. So I think a favorite one right now is Bill 23. We haven't really got our teeth into that yet, but we're trying. So with that, Your Worship, I'm open for questions.
Thank you, President Ritchie, very much for that presentation. I'll go around the table for questions or comments. Councillor Ices, why am I not surprised?
Thank you, Worship. Not really a question, but a comment. Thank you so much for your presentation. And whenever we do ask Innisfil residents what they love about Innisfil, it's the mix that we have of rural, agricultural, and urban. And there's a real need to keep the agriculture viable and keep it strong. And I think your video showed that very well. So thank you for that.
Good. Just a quick comment. I think Monday, Councillor Isis is hosting an event with the help of our MSR, Leah, on educating the staff and whatnot, what we use for equipment and what's involved to handle some of this stuff. I keep saying we don't farm with horses and we live by the moon anymore. We have very high-tech equipment and it runs on satellite feeds, which is basically the truth of it all.
Absolutely. Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Waters.
Just again a comment. Thank you very much for the video and your words of wisdom. I just want to thank you very much for reinforcing the whole idea of smart growth. In that the fact that we realize we do have to grow because we have increasing populations,
yes.
But the fact that growing up and not out is the future for Innisfil, and this council supports that because we realize that the agricultural theme and background that we have here is something we want to keep and we want to relish, and I think that's why a lot of Innisfil residents move here. So I just want to thank you very much for reinforcing that message. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think something that we've got to reflect on too is Simcoe County is not a uniqueness that we've got a whole gamut of farming, whether it's vegetables and fruits and livestock and everything. We've got the whole thing. But we're some of the best in the world. We've got some of the best dirt on the face of the earth in this very area. And when we talk about in the U.S. with trendline yields at 180 bushels, well, there's a lot of corn guys that were growing 180 bushel corn right in Simcoe County this year. So I was told by a local farmer, one of the cowboys, that there's 7 boats sitting in Hamilton Harbor heading for Europe right as we speak, once the seaway opens, because they need our corn. So we're starting to help feed the rest of the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions or comments? I just want to throw my thanks in there too. Mr. Ritchie, you spend more time advocating for the Federation and for agriculture generally, not here just in Simcoe County, but across Ontario. So well-respected a voice in the agricultural community, and we're very pleased to have you. And I know a lot of council is looking forward to having an opportunity to try out some of this high-tech equipment at the IC's farm next week.
And the summer barbecue, July 6th.
I write it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much. So the recommendation is that the presentation from the Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture be received. Moved by Councillor Icey, seconded by Councillor Saunders. All those in favor? That is carried. Next on our agenda is Linda Rodenberg, Interim Aurelia Principal, Lakehead University. And we're going to get an update on Lakehead University's Aurelia campus. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Your Worship, and councillors, thank you for taking the time tonight. It's an honor. I think, as many here already recognize, it's an honor for me to follow here tonight after Mr. Ritchie. He's involved at Lakehead in Aurelia, sits on our President's Advisory Council for Economic Development, is an advocate for your community, and certainly an asset to our team as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Ritchie, for that. It is very much an honor to be here to speak to you tonight and tell you a little bit about Lakehead's story. When I took on the role of principal, I really wanted to get back out into Simcoe County and talk about Lakehead as Simcoe County's university. I feel really, really connected to the communities in Simcoe County. As we were driving out here tonight, it was really incredibly compelling to me because I grew up just outside of a community called Woodstock, Ontario, and this place really reminds me of my own community. And I think just sitting here and listening, I grew up on a farm, and sitting here listening to Mr. Ritchie's presentation drives home to me the relationships that we're talking about between our individual communities throughout Simcoe County, and the important connection we all share to agriculture and to figuring out that relationship between what we do in our towns and cities and the communities that surround them. So I'm just here tonight to tell you a little bit about that story in relation to Lakehead in Simcoe County. All right, I'm hoping this will work, but maybe not. Yeah, it's not working. Did you want me to just tell you when to advance them? Oh, try again? No. Sorry about this. Okay, that sounds great. All right, so I wanted to start tonight by talking to you a little bit about our story in relation to access to education, and just taking a minute to think about some of the statistics that are really important to us as an institution, but also, more importantly, relate to our population here in Simcoe County. So since 2016, we have actually increased our university degree level program enrollment by 41%, and that aligns with a lot of the growth here throughout Simcoe County. In that period of time, the size of Innisfil has actually grown by 18.5% as well. And so we're really, really recognizing right now that our growth is tied to your growth, and your needs are the needs that we really want to meet as we think about growing our programming here in Simcoe County. And one of the sets of needs we're most interested in meeting is the needs of our students. We know that 94% of our students have at least one barrier to post-secondary education, and that for 54% of our students, they're the first in their family to come to post-secondary. And that's one of the reasons why we came to Simcoe County to begin with. We knew that that number was low, and that we wanted to be part of increasing that number in terms of access to education. 24% of our students actually emerge from rural and remote communities as well, and we are committed to meeting the needs of those students. As I was coming out here tonight, I was really excited to welcome a group of about 80 students that are thinking of coming to Lakehead in the fall, and just reminding them of the ways that we offer them an accessible education and seek to meet their needs as a community of emergent scholars. And we do that through financial aid, 58% of our students have access to financial aid during their time at Lakehead, but we also do that through creating a thriving community that they can really become members of and work within in their time with us on campus. We know that thriving community is really what makes students able to find their voices and really make a difference in their communities as they continue to return to their communities and be part of them as they continue to study with us. Next slide, please. One of the things that I know is really important here in Innisfil and something that you care deeply about is economic development. And we work very closely with your lead on economic development, Laura Thompson. She took our executive leadership program that we work on with Lakehead and Georgian, and I got to know her there, and she's returned to meet with us and really talk through a lot of really interesting ideas for how we can work together. Lakehead University is a real economic driver, in the county at this point. We contribute to our local economy to the tune of $245.7 million. And in terms of our economic impact on Ontario, Lakehead in both Orillia and Thunder Bay are contributing $3.563 billion into the economy. Probably what we feel more on the day-to-day, though, is that 253 employees at Lakehead Orillia and in our Lakehead Georgian partnership live and work here in Simcoe County, and many of them call Innisfil home and are very proud to do that. In terms of economic drivers, we absolutely are partnering with your Economic Development Office, and we're also really contributing to internationalization. We have 117 international students that are studying with us on campus, and they're really interested in learning more about places like Innisfil. These are the towns in which they hope to live when they're finished their studies. Next slide, please. The other thing that I think is really important as we all grow is access to talent. And we certainly have grown as an institution, and we are leaning into this right now. We have over 2,000 students on campus for the first time this year, and that's really exciting for us. It really, really contributes to our academic community. And 54 of those students come from right here in Innisfil, which is an amazing thing. In fact, 61 Lakehead alumni are living and working here in Innisfil. And in fact, Jocelyn Penfold and Jamie Wilkes-Bain are working here for the town of Innisfil. So they're even members of your own team. So that's really exciting. I want to share now the story of Andrew Petrus, one of our students who's very involved with the university, continues to be, and he's also from Innisfil and wanted to share a little bit about his own story with Lakehead.
My name is Andrew Petrus. I grew up in Innisfil. The job that I'm doing now, financial planner at IGA Management, I met my boss at a recruiting event through Lakehead Orillia. So I was able to meet him while I was still in school, go through the interview process, and as I was coming out of school, kind of slide into that position and into that role right out of university. So I credit Lakehead University fully with having that connection and being in the career and getting me to the point that I am today.
And so if you see Andrew, make sure that you let him know you heard a bit about his story here. We joke with Andrew sometimes that he had a job within 2 minutes of graduation, but 97.7% of our students have a job in their field within 2 years of graduation, which is above the provincial average in a significant way. Our students are really, when they return to their communities and are looking for work, they find the jobs that they're looking for, and it allows for them to stay. The other thing that is important is access to innovation and research. And I know the town of Innisfil is deeply committed to innovation. And also there are connections here, important connections to research as well. Next slide, please. Here you'll see one of our researchers who we're really proud of in terms of the work that he's doing locally. Farhan works at the Lakehead Georgian Partnership, and he is working in applied life sciences. And he's part of a team that is actually working on advanced wireless applications to transform blood bag sterilization systems. And so his work is very, very interesting. He's super passionate about it, and he's also interested in future partnerships with local groups that might be interested in working with him. And that's one of the things that's really unique about Lakehead researchers, I think, is that they are very interested in meeting local needs. And I'm here tonight to say that if you have anything that you're thinking you need some research support on, we're here to assist you. And one of my team members is here tonight to talk about that if you'd like. Her name's Dr. Rebecca Heffernan. Thanks for being here, Rebecca. Next slide, please. Just a little bit, too, about partnerships and collaborations. Another reason we're here is that we're very excited to partner with municipalities. In fact, we have 150 partnerships with municipalities, government, research institutes, and industry. We also are really, really committed to lifelong learning, and this is a particular passion of mine. We have over 750 people that are involved in our third age learning programs for people who are aged 50 plus. They had a meeting this morning, actually, and they're actually looking at healthcare as a group right now. We also have 224 students that are enrolled in special high skills major programming throughout the county that participate in our Ontario Youth Naturalist program. And it's really great to talk about this here in Innisfil because one of the key teachers for that is Mark Gainick, who works at Nanterre Shores right here in town. And this morning I got some wonderful news. I've heard that we have been nominated for a CEO's Award with Parks Canada for the program that we developed with Mark and with Parks Canada, and that program sees students not only take opportunities to learn at Lakehead University, we go into their school, and we also have a great trip where we go out to Georgian Bay Islands National Park and actually eradicate invasive species with the students alongside Parks Canada employees. So it's a really innovative program. Next slide, please. And just, this is the last thing that I want to talk about. Obviously, there's room to grow. There's room to grow in meaningful ways in Simcoe County. I was really compelled by your vision as a community. Community first, future next, balance always. I sort of want to emblazon that on the wall in my office. I think it's a really great way to think about growth. We have plans to grow our annual economic impact to $400 million, to recruit and enroll over 3,500 students at the Aurelia campus by 2032, and add 10 new programs of study over the next 10 years. And so we want to do that by putting our community first and thinking about the future in meaningful ways and in balanced ways that meet the needs of our communities. You're one of the top 5 fastest growing municipalities in the county of Simcoe, and so I really look forward to continuing the conversation about what you think these programs should be and how we can continue to partner to meet all of the needs that you have, because we are here for you as Simcoe County's university. So thank you so much for your time, Your Worship, and I'm very happy to take any questions that people might have about Lakehead.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Rodenberg. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks very much for the presentation. I went for the tour and the lecture a month ago at Lakehead, so I was there. So I was quite impressed because I hadn't been to that side of Highway 400 before. It's always been the downtown side of Aurelia. So it was nice to know there's some interesting, innovative development on the other side. So it was nice to do that. But the question I have for you is there a particular type of skill set that this campus has as opposed to the main campus in Thunder Bay in terms of, is there a theme of programming that ties everything together? And what type, in your new programming where you want to go, are you thinking of just staying along those lines, or are you entertaining new ideas?
Well, we are absolutely entertaining new ideas. In terms of what differentiates us from both the larger campus of Lakehead, but also I would say a number of other larger institutions, is that we really focus on inquiry-based learning and interdisciplinarity. And so we're really interested in how traditional subject areas work together to problem solve in relation to the complexity of problems we face in the world today. And so inquiry-based learning is really about teaching students about how to ask the right questions so that they can work towards those complex answers. We all have a phone in our pocket where we can get information that is available by Googling it, but it really is about the critical thinking skills. That's what's most important as we move forward. And so the institution was founded on that. We have a number of flagship programs that really lean into that interdisciplinary focus. And I would say that that's something that sets us apart. But it also positions us in really unique ways to think about those 10 new programs as part of growing that interdisciplinary mindset. So again, I think we're really open to what those programs could be, and we're interested in meeting the needs of the students of the county.
Thank you very much. And I think that's a wonderful philosophy. And I think if you can drill that down into high schools and elementary schools, I think that's what students should be learning, is about inquiry, answering the right questions, because there is so much alternative information out there. They need to be able to decipher what's false and what's real. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
that.
Councillor. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say thank you for your presentation. And I have had some past staff and staff that I have now that are attending and have attended Lakehead, and they have nothing but good things to say about the programs they've gone in. I've never heard one bad comment from them about the school. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's amazing to hear.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Any other questions or comments? I would just like to say that many of us were able to attend the economic development breakfast sponsored by Innisfil, where the cybersecurity ransomware talk had taken place, and it was wonderful to be there. And here, actually, one of the panelists was from an Innisfil-based business, from Innisfil DMZ, so that was wonderful. And also thank you for, I didn't realize Mr. Gainick worked with you on that program. Last October, the middle of October of last year, Mr. Gainick and the EnviroVenture group were honored and won the Ernie Crossland Young Environmentalist Award from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. And I was thrilled to be able to be there and watch them get their recognition they so deserve. It's a wonderful program. And my last comment would be, if you're ever looking for a South Campus, we would love for you to come and knock on our door. We've got some really innovative developments coming. We're going to have a development right by a GO train station that would be very convenient for a South Campus. So I'll just plant that seed while I have the opportunity.
Thank you, Your Worship. Indeed, I was in conversations with some members of your team about offering even some community engagement programming at the Idea Lab facility just prior to COVID. And just being here is reminding me that we need to return to that conversation. And maybe that's a place to begin the larger conversation you're talking about as well. Thank you very much. And if I may, I would love to invite any of you who haven't been to campus to come and visit us again. And I'd love to return to continue this conversation with anyone who is interested in doing that. So thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you for your presentation. And I would ask now for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the delegation. And that would be moved by Councillor Waters and seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much for being here. And under item 6, we have a delegation tonight, and we're thrilled to have Deborah Spillar, I hope I'm saying that right, from Procyon Wildlife. I'm hoping I'm getting that right too, but I'm sure you can correct me if I'm not. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of the council and the mayor. I apologize if I don't address everybody right, because usually I deal with schools and children. I've not done council before, so if I do anything wrong, I apologize ahead of time. Okay, so I'm Deborah from Procyon Wildlife. Procyon Wildlife was established back in 2009, and we serve all the local communities within a 50-kilometer radius. And what we do is our motto is to rescue, rehabilitate, and release these wildlife animals back out into the communities where they belong. So how does this work here? There we go. So we've noticed that since the Wildlife Assistance Support Program has been canceled, you don't have it for wildlife anymore. You have it for domestic, but not wildlife. And so the residents of Innisfil have asked me to speak because we're getting a lot of the feedback from the wildlife, because we deal within the Innisfil community. And so we're the ones that are handling all the wildlife and the animals and the people that have been bringing these animals to us. So with the wildlife cancellation program that was canceled in 2017, the town of Innisfil does not pick up any wildlife anymore. So it's up to the residents to deal with the wildlife. The town of Innisfil now, when people call your lines, you're referring them directly to us now, which has put a burden on our system. Because before, you guys would pick them up and then just call us for advice or whatever, but they don't have that anymore available to the residents of Innisfil. Because the support program is canceled, there's more wildlife suffering, and it's increasing every year, and the community is more aware of it now and seeing more of these cases happening. So the public and your residents are frustrated. The residents are seeing an increase in wildlife with diseases as well within your neighborhoods. And the residents are watching animals suffer. And the residents are actually now starting to take care of wildlife themselves, which is actually illegal. So in order to take care of wildlife, you have to have a license. So you have to have a custodian license, which I have. So I am registered with the Ministry of Natural Resources. So it's all government regulated, and we follow government rules and regulations. But what's happening now that we're finding is the residents themselves, because there's not resources for them, they're starting to take care of the wildlife themselves now. And it's illegal for them to take care of wildlife for more than 48 hours. The government allows people to take care of the animal for up to 48 hours, figuring they've got 2 days to actually find a place for these animals to be helped or rehabilitated or taken care of, and people aren't following that rule anymore. And people also were getting calls that people are afraid. Like an 80-year-old might find a raccoon in her backyard and she doesn't know what to do and she's afraid to go out in her backyard. The diseases, we've seen an increase in distemper by about 25%. We've seen an increase of mange, 25%. Now, distemper is fatal, and mange is a disease that's a zoonotic disease which people can get and pets can get as well. It's a disease that mites burrow under the skin and their hair falls out. And they don't die from mange itself, but they die from the post-secondary diseases of infections because they're outdoor animals. There's dirt that gets in the cuts, maggots, different things like that. So people are afraid as well, and they don't know, and they're not educated enough to know whether it's a diseased animal or whether it's just an animal looking for food. And before, they would call the town of Innisfil and get more advice on the wildlife support system that you had. Over the last few years, we've noticed an increase in our phone lines that have been receiving number of calls of wildlife and the communities within the residents that have found them. We have approximately 150 volunteers at our center, and 7 of them are our phone volunteers. And it's our 7 phone volunteers that are getting overwhelmed by all the calls that are now being forwarded from the town of Innisfil to our center. Over this winter alone, from November till March, normally we go a quiet time, and sometimes we actually even close down and just keep a few animals at the center. But over the last 2 years, we've not been able to. We've been open all year round because most of the calls we're getting is from Innisfil now. The residents do care. This is some of the stats for just 1 year of some of the animals that we've taken in. So with the diseases, we've taken in 31 distempered raccoons, which normally would have been handled by your wildlife support system. So what they would do is if it's a distempered raccoon, they would go to the call, they would assess the raccoon, and they would euthanize it right there. But that's not happening. And so they're all being brought to us now, or still being out there and then just dying in backyards. 25 mangy foxes within less than a 1 year period we've dealt with. 1 distempered skunk. And then that's just the diseases. The rest of the animals are maybe because they've been injured, hit by cars, maybe the mom has been hit, whatever. So we've taken in 29 rabbits, 14 squirrels, 10 raccoons, 7 skunks, 4 bats, 3 opossums, 2 chipmunks, 1 mink, and 1 bird. What will happen to the community if something happens to your wildlife? The foxes eat the rodents. Bats eat mosquitoes. Opossums eat fleas, ticks, and also our Mother Nature's garbage disposal system, where they will eat the carcasses of the animals that are on the side of the road. And we can't live, and the community can't live without the wildlife within your communities. The Innisfil fox population alone, 25 mangy foxes in a 1 year period, whereas 2 years ago we would get 1 fox. Mange is contagious to other wildlife, so any animals can get it. It's contagious to family pets, so cats and dogs and everybody can get mange, and it's contagious to people too. It's a zoonotic disease. All foxes that have been brought to the center have survived. We have medicated them. We have vaccinated them. So we're preventing diseases, and they're released disease-free back within your community of Innisfil, but within a 15-kilometer radius of where they're found. So we find a better location than an actual subdivision. So where there's a good water source, where there's a good food source, we release them back into those kinds of areas instead. Your neighbors. So we do work with other townships, and within your neighbors, we deal with Alliston, and we deal with Bradford as well, with their animal control for wildlife support. So we're willing to work with your town, and we can provide help. We can help prevent unnecessary suffering of these animals when people don't know what to do, and the animals are dying within the communities. We can assist with preventing the spread of diseases and saving lives. So we can help, with, vaccinating and medicating and stuff like that, which we're doing now. And we can help educate as well. So what we do now, which I've been doing for 10 years, is I go to all the local communities, the schools, the fairs, all that stuff, and we educate the public, the children, and that on wildlife and how to coexist with wildlife. How can Procyon Wildlife help? We're willing to train your officers, no charge, on how to handle the animals, how to recognize the diseases, So that way, when they do get a call, they can tell right away by looking at a raccoon that it's distemper and it can be euthanized, because they used to euthanize them there. But now we're getting them and we're having to euthanize them. So we can teach all your officers if you start a program for that. We're willing to help you with that. We will continue to educate residents so that way the residents won't overtax your officers. They will recognize that no, that raccoon does not have distemper. It's just out during the day because it's looking for calories, because it's a mom that's feeding babies. And it's not sick always because it's out during the day. It just needs those extra calories. So we can continue to educate our children and our residents in Innisfil how to coexist with wildlife. The officers, what we can do with your officers is they can take pictures. Everybody has cell phones. They can take pictures of the animal's condition, send us the picture, and we can assess the picture and say, yes, that animal needs to be euthanized, or no, bring it on over and we'll help take care of it. So we're willing to work with the Wildlife Assistance Support Program and help save your wildlife in Innisfil and help them from diseases and dying. A little bit of history of Procyon Wildlife is we are licensed and we are regulated through the provincial government. However, we do not receive any government funding. We are a nonprofit charitable organization, and no rehab center gets any funding whatsoever from the government. We are strictly volunteer-based. As I said, we had about 150 volunteers and 7 phone volunteers, and we rely on the donations of the public, local businesses, and communities who are concerned about the welfare of wildlife. So when someone brings an animal to us, we ask them if they would like to give a donation towards that animal. But we will never refuse the intake of an animal because someone doesn't have the funds. We will find the funds some other way to take care of these animals. Unfortunately, Procyon Wildlife does not have the funding to have a rescue and pickup crew to retrieve wildlife. We can't do that. We're busy enough with, we probably have maybe 150 to 200 animals right now at the center. We're in the middle of baby season, and it's just crazy. And we can do up to 2,000 animals in a season. So we just don't have the funding to go out and pick up the animals, which we're getting a lot of the calls for, which your program used to do, was pick up the animals. So Innisfil needs a wildlife assistance support program to do this, and we're willing to work with you. And that's pretty much it. Help is in your hands, you know. It's like our turtles that we have, they're all on the endangered list. We have 7 species of turtles that are on the endangered list. The little brown bats, they're on the endangered list as well now. So I'm inviting anybody that has any questions, I will answer them, but I'm also inviting the council, the mayor, the deputy mayor, to come to Procyon Wildlife if you're interested. We would gladly show you around, show you what we're all about, the animals we save, what we do, how we do it, stuff like that. We have 4 acres. It's in Beaton. And we just rescue, rehabilitate, and release these animals back out into the wild. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Waters?
Thank you, Worship. Thanks very much for your presentation. You really don't realize until you have to use a wildlife service that Innisfil doesn't have a wildlife service. And that happened to me about 6 months ago. And there we had a raccoon that was in the park. It had been called to me by a resident and had the video. Because I've worked in nature center before, I know what a raccoon with distemper looks like, and I knew immediately what was wrong with the raccoon. But I went to the town website, there was a number, that number said that I should just call, it was just a recording to call the police. I called the police, and then they directed me to somewhere else, and it wasn't until I got a hold of a staff person who said, I will take care of it, and she did a wonderful job in taking care of it. But by the time somebody got there, the raccoon had already been moved, or, you know, it presents a danger to the public. and to the animal itself. So you don't realize we don't have these services until you absolutely need them. And I agree with you that Innisfil needs to have something. And so my question, as Councillor Richardson just asked me, why don't we have a service? What happened? Why did we cancel it? So I'll put that question to staff or anyone else the mayor might remember, because you've been here longer than all of us. So why do we not have a program? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we want to call on Mr. Harris, or where shall we start? Director Lee, did you want to comment, or should we go to manager bylaw?
And may I interject 1 second? I did bring copies of my ministry logbook, if you'd like to look at them at your leisure, of a lot of the different case numbers from Innisfil alone.
Wonderful. If we can leave that with the clerk, that would be wonderful. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship, the Council. I don't know if I can answer the question of why, but I can provide some insight that our service level is in line with other municipalities in the county of Simcoe. So we don't provide wildlife service support, but in some circumstances, like Councillor Waters was speaking of, we would provide response on town property. But our service level is in line with other municipalities in the area.
So then I have to ask, so what did we do in 2017 that we don't do now?
Through Your Worship, so in July of 2017, we brought animal control services in-house. Previously, it was contracted out to a third party, and that third party contract did provide a level of wildlife response to the town. When we brought it in-house in July 2017, I wasn't involved in that process, but we did just focus on domestic animals.
Anyone else have any other questions? Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have seen your fundraising in the past. I've been to your events locally and supported you. So I appreciate the efforts that you do for the community. You know, I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that goes in the heart and soul. So I agree with Councillor Waters, you know, that we need to reinvestigate this. We need to look into what we can do to assist. Relying on a third party, I think, is highly unfair to the residents, to the animals, and to you as well. So, but just know that your work does not go unappreciated or unnoticed.
Thank you.
Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. Just a comment, thinking through how you know, our level of service in this matter is similar to other municipalities. Would this subject not be more of a provincial matter where we could have, you know, we have licensing for MNR, they have the expertise on wildlife, and you know, we are the same as every other municipality. And you mentioned in your presentation that the province also does not fund you.
No, we get no government funding whatsoever. We rely on
Is there any avenues through the province that we could go to as well?
You can try, but I don't think they would do anything.
Have you asked?
Oh, we've asked. We've asked for funding. Trust me, we've asked for 13 years. I've been trying to go for funding, support, everything like that, but no.
I appreciate the level of concern that we all have for our environment and our animals, but yeah, it just to have a hodgepodge of different, because you're in Beaton, so it just, to me, it seems like it should be a standardized thing. If our society thinks it should be that important, that would come from that level of government.
So you're saying that Procyon Wildlife should be covering Innisfil?
No, I'm saying the province should help out with this as well.
Okay.
So did you have did you want to respond to that, and then we'll go to other questions?
Yeah, no, the government doesn't have any support whatsoever for wildlife. No center, nobody gets any support from the government whatsoever. And that's one of the things that we have been working on, and I've been involved in for many, many years. But they're saying, you know, let wildlife just, all the animals are provincially owned. And that's what I argue with them about as well, is they say all the animals are provincially owned. And so I'm provincially licensed through them to take care of the provincial animals. But I say, well, if the provincially owned animals, why do you not support them? And they don't. And they don't have an answer for me.
Anyone else have questions or comments? Councillor Waters?
Is there any opportunity, since this organization is supporting Innisfil, and I think that's what they're here asking, is there any support within Innisfil to help this organization? Or we do have a funding agency with grant applications. Does this fall under the grants that we currently offer, or only our programming offered to social organizations which help out residents of Innisfil? Would we be able to ask for support for our wildlife in Innisfil? I'm not too sure whether or not it's that broad.
So the Innisfil Community Foundation is an organization that is arm's length from this council, and has its own board, and there's funding application. You can apply to them for funding. It's called Innisfil Community Foundation, and the application is on their website, and they look through those applications every month. And I'm sure that's one source that you could look at. I just want to examine further, though, that so you're in Beaton, which is kind of south central New Tecumseh, and you get more calls from Innisfil than you get from Tecumseh residents?
Not more calls. Well, over the winter, yes, because your town has been referring all the calls to us. That's why we're getting an increase and an influx of your animals, because they've been directly to us now. Whereas the town of Innisfil doesn't have any resources for them. These people are desperate, so they're getting on the phone. The problem is that back in 2009, there was 125 wildlife centers. In 2023, there's 45 in Ontario and in Canada alone. So we are the only central one. There's one that's in Rosso, which is like, 2 hours away from here. There's one in downtown Toronto, and they only do downtown Toronto. The next one would be Peterborough, and then the other one would be Sarnia, Windsor, around there. So we're the only one that really takes, now there's a couple of private ones, but they may take 10 animals, 20 animals. We take up to 2,000 animals. So that's why when they call, people are desperate to find a place, but there's not many places available for them to get help because there's so few wildlife centers. And it's also, we keep decreasing because nobody gets funding. It's all based on volunteer base and funding from the communities to support of the people that bring our animals to us and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it's all about education.
I don't think we're going to solve this problem this evening, but,
No, but I
it's
wanted to
great
present
that you
it.
came. Hopefully, if people are watching and they're interested in volunteering with your organization, that this might pique their interest in doing so.
True.
Also, there's questions I have still about, I don't know whether Mr. Harris, even if they had the training, do the bylaw officers, would they even be able to euthanize an animal, and what that might entail? And if a resident saw and started filming it and put it on social media that one of our workers is killing animals, like I can see a lot of red flags here. Mr. Harris?
Through your worship, you're correct. We don't currently have the training, as well as we don't have the tools to respond to wildlife. So there's some biosecurity concerns around domestic animals and wildlife in the same vehicle. So there's training and there's equipment concerns that we don't have, as well as contacts of where to bring these animals at this time.
I can give you a couple examples if you are interested in a couple of the cases that I've dealt with through just Innisfil itself.
Maybe what would be helpful, just because we are running a little behind, is if you could give us your best management practices. So pick a municipality in South Simcoe that has got this nailed and does it right, and send it to us and Mr. Harris, and you can copy us. And this is the gold standard of what ESSA or Bradford or New Tecumseh does in this. And we'll definitely can look at that and whether or not that's a level of service that we can. One of the issues we have is just time, right? So we have how many bylaw officers on a night? Maybe, Mr. Harris, maybe 2? So we got 2 bylaw officers covering Big Bay Point to Cookstown, and one has to take a raccoon from Big Bay Point to Beaton. That's an hour and a half, and then back, that's 3 hours. Like that, those are the types of things that we would have to look at and how we would work that in. But if you could provide us that best case scenario, what that looks like, and then we can talk to that municipality, because the bylaw officers in New Tecumseh and Bradford and ESSA, they talk to each other all the time. They know what each other is doing. So if you provide us with that, I'm sure Mr. Harris would be happy to investigate and see how we could maybe bring some of their practices into Innisfil.
Okay, I can do that. And I'll also leave you, the residents of Innisfil took it upon themselves to do a signature signage for voting for your animal control services for wildlife. So I'll leave that with you as well for you to review. And if you have any other questions, then I will gladly answer them and help you out. But we're willing to work with you guys. And you said about the training, we're willing to help train, no charge at all with that. But I will get you some examples of how we deal with other neighbors of yours.
Yes, that is the best lesson for us. I mean, it's much, instead of reinventing the wheel, it's much easiest for us to copy what someone else is doing right? And we'd be very happy to look at that. And if you could provide us with that detail and the contacts, we'd be happy to look at that. So thank you for that. Is there any other questions, comments? Really appreciate you coming in. I think we all learned something this evening, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So we have a recommendation that the delegation from Procyon Wildlife Rehabilitation and Education Center be received. Moved by Councillor Constantine and seconded by Deputy Mayor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you so much. I will say just a little public service announcement that I know a lot of wildlife is killed by cars and a lot of speeding cars. So there's 2 very interesting items coming on the agenda tonight. One is automated speed enforcement, also known as photo radar. Another one is red light camera. So making our streets safer, I'm sure would also make our wildlife safer. So if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome, but I know if you have to go, that's okay too. Thank you. All right, Council, we'll continue then with our County Council, Municipal Association, and Conservation Authority. Any committees that you've been sitting on for the good of Innisfil, if you could, if you have any comments that you'd like to make about them. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. County was actually quite busy this past week. We addressed a number of issues, and there's some events that are occurring starting tomorrow, actually, that are going to be in appreciation of a lot of what is being done in Simcoe County. The Long-Term Care Senior Services in Simcoe County Museum Appreciation Days are an in-person celebration at each of our county's 4 LTCSS locations throughout the month of April. Every event invites residents, staff, family, friends to gather, help, and thank the outstanding volunteers for another great year's service. Throughout Appreciation Week, there will be very site-specific celebrations. Simcoe County Museum is also jumping on the bandwagon. They will be planning an appreciation events consisting of in-person coffee, cupcakes, that sort of thing. This year, the committee organized a gift of locally sourced maple syrup to thank all the volunteers at Simcoe County. It starts tomorrow at Sunset Manor in Collingwood on the 13th, April 18th, Georgian Manor in Penetanguishene, the 21st, Simcoe Manor in Beaton, the 25th, Trilly Manor in Orillia, and between the 16th and 22nd, Simcoe County Museum, Springwater Township. We also have the Week of Welcome, which is happening between June 12th and 16th. It's hosted by Simcoe County, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. They'll be holding these events between 10th and the 16th. The activities will start with a citizenship ceremony taking place in the County Council chambers. The following morning, an Indigenous ceremony will be held at Lakehead University campus in Orillia. Local community activities will take place in Barrie, Bradford, West Gwillimbury, Collingwood, Innisfil, Newtek, and Orillia during this time as well. We also have with the Economic Development Office, there's some priority items they put forth in their work plan this year, and they put in a funding submission to the Skills Development Fund requesting $755,000 in provincial grant funding to be used for a proposed 3-year project that starts April in 2023 and ends in March 2026. It's working with its partners. It's consisting of 4 main activities identified by the Labor Market Research Study. They're looking at building awareness activities, soft skills training, putting in place a mentorship program, and a skilled trades expo event every year, what they can do, which I think is really phenomenal because it's something that we seriously need. More locally, yesterday we struck our first traffic safety committee, and our first point of focus was in Cookstown, which we will be discussing later tonight, and some of the things that were being put into play. Tomorrow night, we are striking our first heritage committee, so we are doing quite a bit on that front as well. And I've been asked by Innisfil Pride to remind everybody of the TNR Feral Cats fundraiser at the Grange Hall on the 29th between 4 to 6:30. All proceeds go to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committees of council? Councillor Zanella.
Thank you, Your Worship. The South Simcoe Streams Committee met at Innisfil Beach Park a couple of weeks back, one very cold morning, and we scouted out all the different locations that we're going to plant some trees and shrubs.
Wonderful. I think there's a couple of planting dates in Innisfil, so if you can bring those dates to us, we'll be happy to try to get some people out for you. Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Your Worship. We had a meeting with the Accessibility Board the other day, and they're going to come to council and do a presentation to us about what's going on with Lionsgate Park and how they are going to spend the donation from the Innisfil Cruisers. We're calling it Kim's Swing, and it looks pretty amazing. So we'll get to see them in May.
Thank you for that. Anyone else have any business from different? Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. I started on the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority. We had a couple of meetings and getting to know how that all works, which is very interesting. I also attended my first Agriculture Advisory Committee where elections were held, and I'm pleased to serve as vice chair of that committee. It's a good committee to work with the ag community and the Conservation Authority to make our environment better. On a side note, I was invited in late March to be a panelist on the Ontario Farmland Trust annual conference. The Ontario Farmland Trust looks to preserve farmland by granting conservation easements to properties that their owners wish to keep in agriculture forever. And they have broad discussions on many topics, and the topic of this conference was on soil and the right to soil in our communities, and talking about local food production by our citizens. As a representative of Innisfil, it was very interesting to feel the standing that Innisfil has when we get in these conferences. I'm sure Mayor Dolan, you've attested to that other times. When I was in the lunch line, there was a young student from the University of Guelph. She was from Japan, and she just couldn't wait to talk to me about the orbit. So that was a nice aside. And of course, the orbit fits very nicely in with conserving farmland. So it was a great event to be a part of, and I thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just have a few things to add to the county update that the Deputy Mayor provided. So there was an opening of a 77 Tiffin Street in Barrie, so supportive housing with all the wraparound services on Tiffin Street, and also approval from the county yesterday for another 174 units of affordable housing on Rose Street with some wraparound services there as well. We approved the recommendation from the grant committee. The Simcoe County has a grant committee that helps market different events, and I was really pleased to see a number of Innisfil grant applications that were approved. So Ice Corp got money for marketing the Onion Fest. The Big Bay Point Resort Association got money for their Christmas market at Friday Harbor. The Innisfil Farmers Market got some marketing money, and the Innisfil Public Library got money to sponsor their Black History Month. So it was good because when I sat on the grant committee a few years ago, rarely would you see an Innisfil name, and that wasn't because, it was because we weren't asking, so the applications weren't getting in. So really encourage, if you know any organization that's looking for even development money around developing some kind of social media presence for events and organizations, to please reach out to the grant program at the County of Simcoe. Also today was the first I've been assigned from the county to sit on the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport Committee. So that's the airport in Oro-Medonte on the 7th line of Oro-Medonte. I'm vice chairing that committee as well, and it was really eye-opening and interesting what an economic driver that airport can be for our area, and we did get a really good tour, and we've got some very good economic opportunities there. OPP is a huge customer there. Hydro One is a huge customer there. Even the Search and Rescue, Canada Search and Rescue, is a customer there as well. So I'll have more to tell you in the future, but it was really, really exciting to have that new learning opportunity. The Deputy Mayor already mentioned the traffic safety. I did attend an AMO board meeting on March the 23rd and the 24th. AMO and OSUM, the small urban group, are gearing up for our conference, which is coming up the end of April. There is still, I think, some space left in that conference. There's lots of good topics, all that fit a municipality of our size. In fact, I believe we're going to be presenting on our traffic calming measures, which I'm pretty excited about. There's also going to be talks on short-term accommodation, economic development, downtown revitalization, so all things that are near and dear to our heart, and I'm looking forward to attending that. And then there was also an in-services and an enterprise board meeting, but they're coming to us for their annual general meeting in June, so I'm not going to steal their thunder. And that's it for me. So seeing no other hands, we'll move on to our consent list. So we'll move through these items. If you have a question, please feel free to ask your question without having to pull it. If we feel there's going to be some debate on the topic, then definitely we'll pull it for further discussion. So item A1, the special council meeting minutes dated March 13th. A2, the special council meeting minutes from March 16th. And A3, special council meeting minutes, March 22nd. A4, council meeting minutes, March 22nd. B1 was the joint interim GIFGAC, as it's known, a summary report from March the 2nd. B2, the Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee. B3, the Audit Advisory Committee for March 21st minutes. And then C, staff reports. The first one, C1, the Traffic Calming Strategy Report and Policy Update. No questions or comments. Can I just ask, did we get any comments from the public? It was on the website. I'm seeing no. All right. So with that not being pulled, then we're finally, after how many years, Ms. Catilla? 3 years, we're finally passing our traffic calming strategy. So I don't think we should just let that go by without a yay. C2, the red light camera program. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
I'd like to refer this to committee of the whole, please.
Thank you. And C3, which is the automated speed enforcement update. Nobody wants to pull that. Okay. Ms. Bowman, do we need, I just feel we have, would somebody please pull it, because we just can't, we cannot let this go by. It's been a mountain of work, a mountain to climb, and we need to at least recognize that. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Thank you. And then D1 and D2, that's the accessibility status report update and the year-end KPIs and metrics. Councillor Ices.
I don't need to pull it, but the staff report on the KPI metrics I thought was very interesting read. And I commend staff for, if you look through there's so many different items that they had to forecast on, whether it be, number of businesses supported or number of roads, kilometers of road that are looked after, or Innisfil Transit. If you want to know what's going on in the town, it's a really easy report to read and get a feel for all that's going on. And I'm very thankful that we have these measurements in that report to see that.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. So then we should not let this moment go by without introducing Mr. Damien Mainprize, who's responsible for all of this work. So thank you so much for that. And I guess a question might be, how do we make this report, which is wonderful, but how do we condense it into bite-sized pieces that would actually capture the interest of the residents who maybe don't want to sit down and read the fulsome report?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we're actually working on developing a municipal dashboard for the public to access, and also all of you. Thank you for the seat. So we're hoping to launch that later this year. So we'll come to you with presentation and details. But yes, that will be highlighting, obviously not this entire report, but key metrics that kind of deal with that, how we are doing as a municipality. Easy to digest, easy to follow. You'll be able to see trend lines and all of that. So stay tuned for that later this year.
It's absolutely, for me, so much better to work off of data than work off of assumptions or what you read on Facebook. So thank you for bringing this for us. Much appreciated. Next item E, bylaws. We have none of those. We have no correspondence for action. And then correspondence for information. We have the South Simcoe Police Board minutes, the Innisfil Library Board minutes, a proclamation about Education and Sharing Day, and the Earth Day, which is coming up, and proclamation for the National Day of Mourning on April the 28th. And So we have two items that have been pulled, C1 and C2. So can we have a mover and a seconder, please? Oh, sorry, C2 and C3, I got those wrong. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Constantine. Councillor Zanella. All those in favor? That is carried. Now we'll move to resolve into committee of the whole for those two items. And that would be moved by Councillor Drudge and seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. And now, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Drudge is seconding my motion.
Sorry, Madam Clerk.
Sorry.
Sorry, Your Worship. Did you wish to have a revised recommendation brought up with the small amendment that we had provided earlier?
Oh, very good. Thank you. Yeah, much appreciated. I'll explain later, but it doesn't change it really at all. But go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I was going through the reports, and I'm looking at the nuts and bolts of it all. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to the town for choosing Cookstown and this particular location to implement this. The questions I have primarily are regarding the cost to the town itself. I understand this is being implemented for the safety of everybody, but primarily our little ones and whatnot. The cost under the Provincial Offences Act, we're talking a cost of $395,000 that drops down to $322,000. Now, if I break that down accordingly, I believe it revolves around the RLC, the red light camera hardware and service. Can you explain to me why it dropped down $68,000 between the first year and the second?
Ms. Bowman?
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, the primary driver of the difference between the costs in year 1, year 2 are really around the camera cost. So we would be signing into a 2-year camera lease, and that the cost actually drops in the second year.
If I may continue. When we're looking at moving the administrative policy, monetary policy, we're removing the 98 ticket, and we're passing the $98 per cost per ticket charge to the courts that they're charging the town. We're going to be saving approximately $250,000 if we're going with that approximate. Now, this is going to be funneled back into the program, obviously, to enhance it, which I understand. And we're transferring the RSV, the plate lookup fee. We're transferring, it goes from $3 to $8, but we're passing that cost along to the person who commits the offense. In essence, saving us on our cost another $3,250. Okay.
Director Bowman?
Through you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, you're on target so far. Yes.
All right. Now, when we move to the APM, the administrative policy, monetary policy, it drops down significantly. I noticed that we're dropping, in essence, from $395,000 down to $147,000. Now, cost is going to be reflected in the what we're doing with these savings. Are we rolling it back into the program to enhance the existing services to increase the safety value, or are we investing in the newer technologies? What are we doing when it comes to that, if I may ask?
Director Bowman?
Through you, Your Worship, with those savings, we are recommending that if this program generates savings after covering the costs, that those revenues potentially be rolled back into traffic safety initiatives. Some of that could be reflected in the traffic calming policy, but it's still early and there are still unknowns. And we would recommend that we go through this year and then we return to you with a recommendation on what those revenues, should they be there, be used for.
Thank you.
Further questions, Deputy Mayor?
I've got a lot. I've got a couple more.
Okay, a couple more, and then we'll go to other people, and then we'll come back to you.
There's a line for a hearing officer, but it's only declared for $10,000. Now, if you could explain to me, because if it's a person that's on staff, or is it someone that are bringing under contract?
Through you, Your Worship, there are a couple of people that are involved in the process when it falls under the AP model. And so when someone wants to take exception to their fine that they've received, they can come to the town and see a screening officer. That's the first step. That tends to be a municipal employee. The second step is a hearing officer, and that cannot be the screening officer, and it cannot be the same provincial offences officer that evaluated the ticket at the start. So that is expected to be an outside contract, like a justice of the peace, and that amount is estimated to have them be available to provide those services for 20 days in a year.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Now, one last item. On the report, you use option B, which is 70% paid without dispute. That alters the overhead cost and removes $202,000 from the town coffers. Why are we using that specific number as opposed to the gross number itself?
Director Bowman?
Through you, Your Worship, that number is garnered from intel from both our court operators as well as the Joint Processing Centre in Toronto. And it's our effort to give you a realistic look at what to expect as far as revenues coming from some of those fines.
Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I think that using the 70% number is responsible. It's, while I think that most people, when it's a camera and they're caught, they'll, not want to fight it, but I still think there will be people will take the opportunity to try to dispute when they can. But we want, obviously we want the realistic numbers, as realistic as we can get them. So I just want to thank Director Bowman. I know working with the City of Toronto has not been the easiest, but you've managed to develop a good relationship with them. I think this intersection, being that it is the busiest intersection in the municipality, is a good one to start. We know, based on data collected just with a camera, that in 1 week, just going east-west, from 5 in the morning till 9 at night, there was 467 red light runners on that street. So this is the, that's the data that we collected, and because I live near, I would say that that would be more than doubled if that was going around the clock, because the real time when the Honda trucks and the Honda traffic feel that it's safe to cross a red light is at 2 or 3 in the morning, not, at 3 in the afternoon when there's people on the street. So that is where we start. It's not where we finish, hopefully, but that's where we start. And, while I appreciate all the questions about dollars, and again, I'll say it and I'll keep saying it, this isn't about money. This is not about making money. This is not about, I think sometimes you hear about cash grabs for both this and the automated speed enforcement, also known as photo radar. You hear about that all the time. This is not what it's about. It's about safety, and I don't think there's a single person on this council that would tell you that that isn't the single biggest issue that you deal with in your wards. So I think to get here took a long, long time, and I so commend staff for getting us to this point. Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Just a quick comment on that is that I would love to be able to see a 90% drop in revenues, which would show that, that they're doing what they're supposed to do. So it's not about the revenue, it is about the safety, and to see that, that is what I'll be interested in, that trend, to show that these work. Because if you're going to be going through a red light, that puts everyone else's lives at jeopardy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Drodge.
Through you, Your Worship, just a quick comment to staff. Thank you. I believe my phone might stop ringing as much as it does. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Drodge, I know that the camera had the data, but that number didn't surprise us because we sat with staff at that intersection for a 20, 30-minute meeting and watched 4 red light runners. So we certainly understand the need there, and I think it's a great place to start. Seeing no other questions or comments, all those in favor of the recommendation? That's carried. Next item, Deputy Mayor.
Need a seconder? No, Councillor Drudge, thank you.
So again, similar, this, except for this one, will be dealing with the City of Barrie as opposed to the City of Toronto at the regional center. And it just occurred to me now I didn't speak to the small amendment I made on the former one. So just to say that before anything can happen at 89 and 27, we need approval from the Minister of Transportation, Minister Mulrooney, because it is part of a provincial highway series. So the amendment was to say instead of staff sending a letter to the minister, it would be that the town send a letter to the minister. So certainly, if it came from the CAO or from myself, and I'll be knocking on Minister Mulrooney's door to make sure that she knows that's happening. So I apologize for jumping around, but that was the small amendment that was made to the to C2. So now getting on to C3, again, a wonderful program, and look forward to rolling it out in our community, and know that Director Bowman has spent months and months and months getting us this far. Again, any revenue that, if there is any revenue, we don't think there will be under this current process until we get the AP process set up, or the AMP process, administrative penalties process. But if that happens, and if there is any revenue set up, that could be rolled right back into traffic safety calming measures in places that may not warrant a camera. So there will be neighborhoods that people still complain about speeding, but they just don't get the volume in order to be eligible, or they're not the law only allows us to put these cameras in a school zone or in a community safety zone. So there's lots of speeding issues in other places, and that's what we approved earlier with this traffic calming policy. So it's finally all coming together. All of the tools are going to be in the toolbox to hopefully get a handle on what has become an increasing problem, not only in our municipality, but I can tell you in every municipality in Ontario. So with that, that's my rant. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. Something came to mind when you were discussing this just now. It's rather ironic and poetic justice that those who break the law are making it safe for everybody else around town. They're the ones who are being the motivators. So their inaction or lack of care is, in essence, being turned into the protection of others. Thank you.
Thank you. So all in favor of this recommendation? That is carried unanimously. Thank you so much. And now we'll move to our RISE recommendation, and that would be moved by Councillor Zanella and seconded by Councillor Drudge. All those in favor? That is carried. And we'll go to our adoption of the recommendations from Committee of the Whole that were not moved. And that's carried by Councillor Constantine and Councillor Saunders. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. And next is a notice of motion. And I was going to ask Council's concurrence to put this on the floor. I believe this is Councillor Ices would like to move this. Yes. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. To move this from a notice of motion to a motion for which is notice of given for consideration this evening, we would need a motion for the procedural bylaw to be waived with a 2/3 majority vote.
Okay, and what I would ask, though, what we could do first, could we just put the motion up so people knew what they were saying would be okay to waive notice on? So, as almost everybody knows, there is been an issue with a contract that's led by the County of Simcoe on County Road 21 from County Road 20 to Yonge Street. This street has been significantly delayed. It should have been done about a year and a half ago. So this is asking staff to contact the county to make sure that all available resources are used to complete this project as early as possible in the 2023 construction season, and to confirm next steps around the County Road 20, County Road 21, sorry, the 20th Side Road and County Road 21 intersection that, you know, causes us concern where the railroad tracks intersect with the traffic signals. So it's asking them to move forward with the plan, the interim plan, before moving forward for an actual grade separation in the future. Once we get a mover and a seconder, then maybe we can have some more comments. So it's Councillor Ices and Councillor Drudge, all those in, well, no, not all those in favor. Sorry, now we have to go back to the notice of motion. I'm really messing this up. So this is, we require 2/3 majority to, because the procedural bylaw wouldn't require us to vote on this tonight. So let's see if we can get 2/3 majority for that. Deputy Mayor Fowler is moving it. Councillor Waters is seconding it. All those in favor? Now, going back to the motions, questions and comments. Did everybody have an opportunity to see it? And Councillor Ices?
Thank you, Worship. It's this thoroughfare through Innisfil is definitely, the construction on it has caused a lot of issues for a lot of people. The amount of cars that go through there to Alcona and beyond every day is impacted by this. And as the motion comments on the delays, and a lot of the residents have, I think, we're beyond the reasonable timeline when this should be completed. So I wholly agree with this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Zanella.
I also agree 100% with this, because I am just sick and fed up of this nightmare in Innisfil, as are most residents. So there's just one thing I would like to see, if there's somewhere in here that while we're asking for all this, can we ask for a date that they will start working again? I think that, you know, that's really important. It's great that we're going to, you know, go ahead with all this, but I want a date when they're actually going to start working on it again.
Thank you for that. Certainly, if we'll be meeting, sorry, I can't see a hand over there. Mr. Gershaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'll start by answering in the sense of saying, both within services and with town staff, we've been discussing the status of the project. I'm just looking across the room at Director Lee, who may have more recent information on what we're hearing about the construction resumption.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have some reach out to the county to try and get an update in terms of the timing. They have had some challenges in terms of the tender, so we're actually trying to confirm if they were proceeding with the works in the tender this year, or in fact delaying it until next year. So we don't have a specific date yet, but we can certainly advise council when we hear back from county staff.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on this? Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. I agree. This has been long overdue. Even with COVID, this should have been back in play by now. This is a major artery into Alcona. and the state it's being left in with the effect it's having on the residents on a daily basis is unfair. So I think it's about time we dug on our heels and pushed back a little bit with the county and asked them to get their ducks in a row and get our road in line. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That's carried. Any announcements this evening? Ward 1.
Thank you, Worship. On a bit of a somber note, the agricultural community is in a state of sadness right now. There was a tragic farm accident that killed a young 24-year-old farmer in Alliston about 2 weeks ago. And on top of that, just last week, a well-loved veterinarian that was just a friend to so many, he died of a heart attack driving home from a farm show at the age of 68. So, yeah, it's been a sad time with our community in that way.
Our condolences, Councillor. Ward 2, Councillor Constantine.
Yes, Your Worship. My announcement is there will be an information session at the library on April 20th, and it's by the Office of Worker Advisor. They provide free and confidential advice, assistance, and representation to workers who have been injured at work. So it's just an information session for the community.
Thank you so much, and I believe the information advisor is here this evening. Ward 3, Councillor Richardson.
Just a couple of things. Tonight, Johnny Burger opened up their doors and had a 10% kickback to the Nantire band, which is great. The band actually competed a couple weeks ago at Aurelia and came home with another gold, so they're really getting excited to be going to Niagara Falls to compete. Speaking of competing, Miss Jenny's Dance Studio, beginning of April, they competed at Starbeat Dance, and they Starbeat Dance Champions. So many winners, too many to be named. They had first, seconds, thirds, scholarships, as well as top pre-comp studio, which is great. Innisfil Idea Lab and Library, April 22nd, has got a whole bunch of great things happening for Earth Day, a story time, that sort of stuff. Moon Cafe, Wednesday nights karaoke, Thursday nights trivia. And then on a side note, as far as youth initiatives, I've got April 23rd at the Innisfil Legion is Teen Darts for kids 13 or teens 13 and up from 1 till 3, a free event with just a food bank donation to attend.
Thank you, Councillor. Lots going on in Ward 3. Ward 4, Councillor Waters.
Oh, yeah, I have to follow that.
Sorry.
Well, unfortunately, I just got back from vacation.
Oh, I got one for you.
So, hold on a second. Councillor from Ward 3 is going to give me some information about Ward 4.
Beach Road Market, the 29th.
Okay, there we are. Beach Road Market is on April 29th from 10 till 3. But one thing I will mention, that it's really interesting to be able to visit other countries and see how they run their cities. I had an opportunity to be in Lisbon, and we took a citywide tour, and all of my pictures are of 6 to 10 story developments that, you know, look absolutely wonderful in terms of how do you improve density. And I know my wife is tired of me taking pictures of buildings, but it just seems like such a way to move Innisfil in terms of higher density and in terms of what we were talking about earlier around that we should be building up and not out. And those are wonderful communities, and they seem to be okay with it. They're not at each other's throats. So it was a wonderful tour, and I just think that's a wonderful way Innisfil should be moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 5, Councillor Zanella.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have no real announcements, but just that we will be having, I believe sometime in May, a meeting with Ward 5 residents with Mayor and Deputy Mayor and myself, and we don't have a definite date yet, but we'll make sure that everybody knows when that's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Ward 6, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Your Worship. We had, was the Friday Harbor Easter egg hunt was really well attended this weekend. And on April 30th, the Cove Cafe will be donating 10% of their sales with a celebrity server back to Nantyre's band.
Thank you for that. Ward 7, Councillor Drotch.
I got nothing really to announce other than spring has sprung in Ward 7, and the golf courses are starting to already get out there and clean off, and the marinas are putting their boats in. So here comes summer.
Thank you so much. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I only have two. I've signed up for the agricultural experience this coming Monday, so I'm looking forward to, getting on the field and seeing what Councillor Ices can teach me and show me what I don't know about farming. I look forward to it. Nothing like big boys with big toys, I guess you can say. On top of that, Saturday the 22nd at Town Hall between 2 and 4, we're having a council-sponsored volunteer appreciation event. Just our way of saying thank you to everyone who gives of themselves without asking for anything in return, just for the betterment of others.
Thank you. Most of what I wanted to say was covered, but as it looks like hopefully winter is finally appearing to wind down, I want to extend thanks on behalf of council to our amazing roads team for their hard work in keeping our roads clear and safe during this winter season and getting them ready for the spring. I know many of us took the opportunity to ride in a snowplow this year and get that experience. And it really makes you appreciate the work and actually the talent it takes not to knock over all of the mailboxes. I can tell you that the Mayor's Golf Tournament is officially sold out. It's June the 19th. We still have some sponsorship opportunities available for anyone interested in supporting the Innisfil Community Foundation. 100% of the proceeds go to the Innisfil Community Foundation for that event, and that's how we can support things like Procyon in the future. The Facilities Master Plan Open House was April the 4th, but there's still time to share your feedback through our Get Involved page. Councillor Drodge, there was an Easter egg hunt in Cookstown, and it was fabulously attended as well. It was a beautiful day. And I also attended 106th anniversary of Vimy Ridge. It was held at Base Borden, a sunrise ceremony, which is always very touching and very much appreciated. And also I was on a panel on a group called Elect Her Now. It's a group that encourages more women to run for politics. And the topic was finding balance. And I kept telling them they had the wrong person to be on that panel because I haven't figured that out yet. But it was wonderful to learn from others. And I did have, I wanted to thank all of the council members that were able to come to the county orientation. We had more of our council at that orientation session than any other of the 16-member municipalities. So thank you for that very much. I ran into a councillor there from Wasaga Beach who told me that the only reason she felt the confidence to run and win in Wasaga Beach is because she heard the panelists on Elect Her Now. So that made me feel really good. Finally, I'm going to, speaking of finding balance, I am taking the next week off. So I would like to thank Deputy Mayor Fowler for chairing the next public meeting on community benefits charges. And then as soon as I return from vacation, I'll be going to the Ontario Small Urban Municipal Conference, and will be attending council that night, but virtually. So I'll be asking the Deputy Mayor to also chair that evening. And I look forward to seeing everybody at the Earth Day events and the volunteer appreciation at Town Hall. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. There was one thing I did want to mention, and it comes off of what you had mentioned about elections, is that the application process is now open, looking for residents to sit on 2 committees to help improve Innisfil's dismal show out at the past elections. So if you are interested to go to our website and apply to be on those committees, because we need as many innovative thinkers in terms of how do we get more residents to vote in Innisfil. And also, there's also another committee on ward boundaries. So just an announcement to all residents, please take a look at that, and we'd love to see your name in that process. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Waters, and I can tell you that the Association of Municipalities of Ontario Board has also started a project called A Healthy Democracy for the same reason, because the voter turnout was low throughout Ontario. Actually, there was 2 weeks after the Ontario election, there was a municipal election in Prince Edward Island. Same thing, lower voter turnout there as well. So it's a problem that stems far past us, but our local efforts, along with the efforts of the association, I think will go a long way in helping with that. I'm going to ask Mr. Gershaw if there's any announcements from the corporation. Seeing none, then we will move for the confirming bylaw, please. Moved by Councillor Constantine, seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. And move for adjournment at 8:48 p.m. Councillor Drodge, Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight. Thank you, staff, for hanging in. And happy, hopefully, spring.
I would just like to congratulate council on learning how to use all these so quickly in one council